All right, so now we're kind of at that provocative moment in Wellman's argument, where again, I would say that many of you probably are like, it still feels different, or like this seems like, this seems like Wellman is making too much, or requiring too much when we really can't, or $100. Come on now, like we're college students, we don't have $100. And this is where we move to the next page, okay? Where Wellman takes up this critique. He takes up this criticism where he says, let me comment on my suggestion that each of us has a duty to donate $100 to famine relief. Okay, so again, he says, I suspect virtually everyone reading this book, or, on whatever computer you're on, or maybe you're watching on your phone or something like that, but I suspect that virtually everyone reading this book could easily give substantially more than $100 without sacrificing anything significant. But I choose this conservative sum because it's a round number that is in the general neighborhood, at least, of what it would cost to replace the drink and the book that I imagined might be ruined in the initial rescue situation. Let me quickly respond, however, to those who might object that $100 is too large an amount to expect people, especially students, to sacrifice. Okay? So again, just to make sure that we're clear of where we're at, if we have a moral duty to jump in the pool and save the child at the initial kind of rescue situation, Wellman makes the claim that we also have a duty to donate $100 to help those that are gravely imperiled. Okay? All right. So that's a tough argument, right? Because, again, I think most people are probably like, well, it's a very different situation. But Wellman has tried to lay out responses to that kind of like the way that it might feel different. But in fact, the moral relation between you and the drowning child are the same as you and the starving distant foreigner. Okay? And so here's what he says. Also, this paragraph kind of shows maybe a little bit how this article was written probably in the early 2000s, so a little outdated, but nevertheless. There will invariably be exceptional cases, of course, of people who could not give up to $100 without sacrificing something morally significant. Some students are working parents, for instance, who have too little money to even buy assigned texts, and who could not part with $100 and still manage to pay for their children's health insurance. Okay? If this sounds like something of your situation, then it seems only reasonable to conclude that you could not contribute to famine relief without sacrificing something morally significant. Okay? Sure, there are kind of various situations that would definitely be serious, that would definitely require our attention, that donating $100 might very well put us right, in a position of extreme vulnerability. And so, therefore, it might not be recommended to donate $100. However, okay, and this is where Wellman says in the middle of this paragraph, if we are being honest, however, the vast majority of us must admit that we could charge $100 to our credit cards and still shop at Abercrombie & Fitch, buy our coffee at Starbucks, order our dinner from Domino's, and watch MTV on television and talk with our friends on our phones. Okay? If so, then it is hard to say with a straight face that we have no duty to save the lives of starving children because doing so would require us to sacrifice something significant. Right? So what he does here is he calls all of us out. He calls all of us out. And I'm sure throughout kind of this article, many of you are like, no, this is my money. I want to spend it how I want. Sure, I'll help when I can, but like $100, that's too much to donate. Who knows where the money's going? Can't trust these relief organizations anyway, right? I'm just going to hold on to my money. I'll help the best way I know how later in life, blah, 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 blah. Or if you say, well, I can't give $100 away. That's just so much. I'm a starving college kid, right? That's tough to say, right? Because we live in a very we live well, right? Compared to other areas of the globe, we live very well in luxury, okay? And so it's hard to say with a straight face that we have no duty to try to improve the lives of others, right? Because charging $100 to our credit card, charging $100 to our debit card, right? Does not really sacrifice that much, right? And what Wellman is doing here and how Wellman is taking this argument is a very kind of utilitarian framework, right? Of thinking, and I indicated this kind of quickly in the classroom while we were talking, about utilitarianism. But utilitarianism, if you take on strict utilitarianism of the maximization of pleasure and the minimization of pain, when you think about kind of your resource allocation, when you think of like how you spend your money, right? Are you really doing the best that you possibly can with your money, right? Are you doing the greatest good for the greatest number with how you spend your money, right? And then sure, I mean, a lot of us respond, well, it's like, well, I worked hard, that's my money, right? Like, let me do what I want with it. And sure, maybe I'll donate a little, but maybe I won't, who knows, blah, blah, blah. I need to take care of my family and my own interests first. But Wellman's going to say again that if you're going to jump in that pool at the initial situation, you're also required to donate $100 to help those starving kids, because it's not really going to cost you anything. And so he calls us all out here, right? There's more to say in this article, and you can go kind of read, and it gets a little bit more geopolitical, and it gets a little bit more geopolitically influenced, and kind of recognizing the complexity of governments and oppression and stuff like that. But I do just kind of like offering that initial outlook, right? That initial kind of framework, because it's challenging, and I think that it calls all us out to an extent of like, in what way might we be better able to live a life that we influence others' lives for the better on both perhaps the local level, the statewide level, the national level, or even the global level, right? And all kind of like stemming off that initial poolside rescue situation. So I hope that kind of like in thinking about this and kind of like looking at this article, you feel challenged by it, maybe you feel frustrated by it, but ultimately you feel encouraged to think about, what duty, if any, do you have to helping those that are in need. Cheers.